Alright, well, Anthonix Maximus reviews may be done for the season, but Anthonix Maximus Matinee is still going on. And I have proof that I saw Thor, Love and Thunder. I want you to meet Mjolnir, and I want you to meet Stormbreaker. Sorry, Stormbreaker, no matter how much you want it, Thor is not gonna bang you. That's right, I saw the movie. It was a magical movie. And by magical, I mean, it is fine. It's better than Dark World. Not as great as Ragnarok, but it was still decent. And music is provided by Guns N' Roses. Yeah, I know, that could be a problem for some people, but if we can sit through AC/DC for all the Iron Man movies, we can put up with Axl Rose singing throughout this movie. Axl Rose! I wonder how 1990s Axl Rose would respond to his music playing in a film that features same-sex relationships. You see, Axl Rose had a bit of a homophobic mouth back in the 90s. But so did Eminem. And you know what? They both served their time doing community service. And by community service, I mean singing a duet with Elton John. Now, this may be a spoiler review, but I'll let you know when the spoiling starts. But let's just chat. You and I, huh? Let's do some catching up, because I've released an Anthonix Maximus review of G.I. Joe the movie. I still have the remnants from that review. Unfortunately, right now, YouTube kind of has a bit of a block on it in the United States. Thank you, Hasbro. Could have gotten you some nice publicity because I did praise that movie, but you do you, Hasbro. I'm still kind of working to get that unlocked. But the good thing about me is whatever review I put up on YouTube, about a week or so later, it will go up on my Facebook page, Anthonix Maximus. So this film was actually great, but not that great. It was just kind of a weird pacing. First of all, if you remember from last time we saw Thor in Avengers Endgame, he gained some weight, some depression weight. But we learned from the film that him being a bigger guy did not mean that he was any less worthy. He was still able to handle Mjolnir, and he saved the day while being overweight, meaning that you don't have to be perfect to be a hero. But anyways, this movie kind of erases all that and gives him abs once again. So Thor's got this six-pack, so if you're an American slob like me, who thought you had a hero to aspire to, sorry, but you have to work out to be that hero. I know, it's painful. But this is a sacrifice that someone else will have to make. And it was fun seeing the Guardians of the Galaxy once again, even if it was brief. The villain, Gore, Christian Bale, he had fun with the part. You can tell that he was actually just kind of chewing the scenery up. That scenery is delicious. It's just kind of weird though, like seeing Christian Bale just kind of laughing maniacally and just all over the place. But his whole deal is that he is a god killer. Why? Because something tragic happened where his daughter was not saved. That's not really a spoiler, I'm just kind of giving you the synopsis. And because the gods did not save his daughter, he decides to go on a rampage, which sounds awfully a lot like a Pureflix villain motive, kind of writing that you get from David A.R. White. It was nice seeing Natalie Portman in a film, though be it was a bit bittersweet, but we get to see her as the mighty Thor. And before all the neckbeards go crazy, and all the older comic book fans go crazy, there are some I had to explain that eventually Jane Foster does become Thor, just as Thor becomes Odinson. The film does have some bad pacing issues that do kind of go back and forth. Like, it'll go from a real tragic moment about someone dying, but then it'll jump to someone making a bad joke. there's not as much of a balance between dark and comedic as there was in Ragnarok, which is sad because it's also directed by the same director, and I always have a hard time pronouncing his name, Taika Waititi. I will say though that no matter what the Thor movie is, you're not gonna miss out because Chris Hemsworth knows how to make the character fun. And there are moments in the film where you actually do have a lot of fun with it, where you see other gods in it. I'm telling you stuff that you see in the trailers. Russell Crowe was actually a fun Zeus. Actually quite hilarious, really. And bear in mind, I actually loved Russell Crowe as Jor-El. As a person, not so much, but when he gets in front of the camera, he can actually put it on. Valkyrie actually steps it up as the new king of Asgard, and unlike the last movie, they don't shy away from her sexuality, which is pretty refreshing. Like, you never really knew if she was into women in the last movie. It was just implied in a flashback, but here she makes it obvious. Little interesting fact is that young Thor running through the woods is actually Chris Hemsworth's son. So in order for me to get into the details of why this isn't gonna be as great, because after all, Gore, he's an entertaining villain, but he is no Loki. But which of Thor's enemies actually are? I will say this though real quick before I send you away while the grown-ups talk about the spoiler. There is a mid-credits and there is a post-credits. I think we can expect that by now. So yes, you do have to sit through the credits and learn who was producer, who was the writer, and who was the grip for that production. So we are now going to discuss the spoiler. You may come back about this time, and the spoiler's about to begin. 3, 2, 1. Hey, do me a favor. Remind me to put in some kind of lightning effect. That way it doesn't look so lame. Yeah, it was great seeing Natalie Portman in this. It's a shame, though, that she dies, because they had to give her a cancer diagnosis. I mean, it was great that Natalie Portman was able to come back to do this, but it's a shame that they had to kill her off. And you'd think that her becoming the Mighty Thor would actually give her back life, but it doesn't. It actually still kills her. But that's what I'm talking about with the pacing. It'll just go from a moment of her finding out that she has short time to live to someone cracking a smart-ass joke. Like when she is at the bathroom sink, gets depressed and breaks the sink, and then here comes Valkyrie playing music on her Bluetooth speaker. I also appreciated seeing Darcy. I'm actually one of the few people that actually likes cat deadings. And yes, I've seen Two Broke Girls. Yeah, the writing is not intelligent, but you know what? It was on CBS, it was on TV. I didn't have internet, I was new to New York. That came on, it made me feel nostalgic because it was a show about two girls working in a diner trying to make something of their lives, and me just moved to New York. I appreciate that. Sorry, tangent. My bad. Let's get back. Christian Bale getting mad that his daughter died from, hunger and thirst, and him wanting to kill the gods. It's a sympathetic story, almost cartoonish, but it's still sympathetic. I would say my ranking for the Thor villains, though, would have to be, I would say it's Malekith, Gore, Loki, and Helena. Helena was just fun. And I like Loki, but I think it's just because they oversaturated Loki in all of the MCU to the point where they even gave him his own show. So I was just kind of sick of seeing him. That's why he's not on the top. I do kind of laugh though, because his whole motivation for killing all the gods, trying to get to eternity so he can make a wish to destroy all the gods. And to think, everything could have been sorted out. Nobody would have had to die in battle. No children would have had to been kidnapped if he actually just shut up and listened to Thor. Like, he could have wished his daughter back, but no, he had the sword and it was killing him to the point where by the time he got to the end, the sword pretty much killed him. And kind of messed up that Natalie Portman, Jane Foster, is lying there dying, telling Gore that his daughter will be well taken care of, knowing very well that Jane is about to die. So, sorry, Thor, you're about to become a single dad. By the way, love the little girl, she is actually played by Chris Hemsworth's real-life daughter. So if you're one of those a-hole neckbeards that love to make fun of children and pretty much bully them online because, you know, they're kids in a fantasy movie like you do for Star Wars or you do for the other MCU films, remember, she's the daughter of Chris Hemsworth. So I dare you to actually bully her in front of Chris Hemsworth. I have a feeling he can kick your ass. And the result would probably be just like the end of season 3 of The Boys. If you know, you know. While I did appreciate that they had the two goats pulling the boat, just like in Norse mythology, it got old after a while listening to them scream. Like, okay, a couple times it's funny, but it's like every time. And I was at this movie theater where like we had this obnoxious woman like heckling loudly every time they screamed. It's like, okay, lady, it's not that funny. As I mentioned, Valkyrie does kind of show more of her sexuality, and you see that when she's kissing the hand of one of Zeus's maidens. But a real shocker was the ending where you see Korg end up with a rock man named Dwayne. Like, I really did not see that coming at all. But, I mean, he explained the story of how he was created with two fathers, but I didn't think, you know, like, I didn't think it would be that way for him too. But, alright, more power to him, I guess. I just can't wait for people to scream, "Oh, the movie just got politico," because you're simply politico. Dun, 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 dun. It was kind of them to bring back Sif, even if it's just to decapitate her, because we didn't really see her in Ragnarok, so I was curious of what happened to her. And yeah, I know she showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but are we supposed to acknowledge that or are we not? We do get the actors Luke Hemsworth, Matt Damon, and Sam Neill playing the actor versions of the characters we knew because they showed up in Thor Ragnarok. But this time, the Helena actress is played by Melissa McCarthy because, yeah, sure, why not? And apparently Heimdall has a son named Axel. You got the Guns N' Roses music playing. Why not allow Heimdall's son to be named Axel? I really did not get the whole relationship of suddenly Mjolnir and Stormbreaker being sentient. Stormbreaker especially being jealous of Thor. Like, you two are not in a relationship. I mean, Russell Crowe was fun as Zeus because, after all, Zeus is kind of like a orgy-obsessed kind of guy. And I knew that they would inevitably introduce us to Hercules, who shows up in the mid-credits. Honestly, I'm trying to remember what happens in the post-credits, but I'm actually drawing a blank. Oh yeah, the post-credits scene is actually Jane entering Valhalla, being greeted by Heimdall. So that's pretty much all I have to say for the spoiler part. Just a lot of tone death and a lot of sad deaths. Tone deaf and sad deaths. Let's bring back our non-spoiler friends. 3, 2, 1. Yes, I'm aware the sirens are going on. Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome back. I'm assuming while I was discussing spoilers with the other people who'd seen the movie, you were using that time to buy your ticket to see this film. And I'd say you should. It's not the best Thor movie, but it's still worth going to see it in a theater. Maybe not the IMAX or like one of those expensive theaters, but it's still worth going to the theater. It's still worth going to the theater to see it. Most of the issues with the film is the pacing and constant back and forth of scenes where it's just like, okay, enough with the pit stops, enough with the side quests, just come on already. The villain is still interesting. Not the best villain, but still interesting. It's great seeing memorable faces. You can always rely on Chris Hemsworth to deliver the best Thor. So there's not much further I can say. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, blah, blah, blah. The G.I. Joe movie review will be up on YouTube somehow. I'm still working through some things, even if I have to do a re-upload. But you can also watch it at, and I'll leave the link down below, facebook.com/Anthonix Maximus. The Anthonix Maximus page on Facebook. That'll be up on Saturday night. God willing that I don't get struck there as well. I am going to give this film a 7. Seems like a number I've been using a lot of, but like the other times it holds true. It's a 7 closer to a 6 than an 8. Mostly just due to the fact that because the ending will kind of disappoint you, even though it's uplifting, but also the aforementioned pacing, the shift in tones. It's better than Dark World and even better than the first Thor movie, but it's not as good as Ragnarok. And I think that's the problem a lot of people had with it, is that it's the same director, because this is the first time that they kept the same director from the last one, but just didn't have the same result as the last film. So yes, 7 out of 10. I'm Anthonix Maximus. Thank you for watching Anthonix Maximus Matinee. So have yourself a Thursday.